Get ready. Dating all the way back to 1915, Universal Studios Hollywood is an accidental theme park. Originally, the studio was open to the public and offered guest behind-the-scenes studio tours. This subsequently developed, and the studio would eventually become a fully fledged theme park in 1964. Given this growth over the years, it's no surprise that the park has seen some changes, and this is particularly the case for some of the rides and attractions. As part of our Attraction Graveyard series, we take a look at the lost history of classic theme park rides. In today's video, we count down some of the substantial changes seen throughout the history of Universal Studios Hollywood. Get ready. Number 9. E.T. Adventure. E.T. Adventure was a quintessential dark ride that operated in the park from 1991 to 2003. This attraction followed on as a direct sequel from the 1982 film E.T. the Extraterrestrial. As part of the pre-show, the film's director Steven Spielberg explains to riders that E.T. needs to return home. His home planet is dying and only E.T.'s magical healing touch can save it. In order for riders to bring E.T. back, they need an interplanetary passport. Riders gave their names to attendants and they were given a card to hold onto as they entered the main queue. Riders then walked through a forest setting at night as part of the queue line. This was filled with scent pods that engulfed the entire queue with an iconic pine scent. Visitors boarded bikes in order to bring E.T. back to his home planet. They soared as they sped past NASA and police officials before flying over a miniaturized city below. They eventually landed on the green planet where an animatronic E.T. thanked riders by their names thanks to their passports. Unfortunately, this amazing ride ceased operating in March 2003 to make way for Revenge of the Mummy: The Ride. Thankfully, however, the ride still exists in Universal Studios Florida under the same name. Number 8. Back to the Future: The Ride. This is one of the classic Universal Studios Hollywood attractions that still springs to many minds of theme park fans. This ride was opened between the years 1993 to 2007. It also featured in a previous installment of our Attraction Graveyard series when we looked at the lost attractions of Universal Studios Florida. The Hollywood version would also feature the same demise, as would be later replaced by the Simpsons ride. The current ride uses almost the same technology, acting as a screen-based simulator attraction. Riders would board their own DeLorean as they were transported into the year 2015, among other historic settings. Riders were in hot pursuit of the film villain Biff Tannen. This would follow on as a sequel to the original trilogy, but was heavily time-stamped. Considering the film took you to a time where 2015 was the future, it was always going to catch up on itself. The Simpsons would prove to be a decent replacement. There's no significant dating factors, especially given the animated features of the ride. The town of Springfield now also provides a more immersive experience to the surrounding land that the original ride partially lacked. Number 7. Backdraft. Universal Studios Hollywood rides were known to give you a glimpse into some movie magic. Backdraft gave the classic Universal theme park experience. Based on the 1991 film of the same name, Backdraft allowed visitors to learn about pyrotechnic effects. But it also allowed visitors to experience the true power of fire firsthand. It opened in the park the following year of the film's release, after the critical and commercial success of the film. It would later close in 2010 to clear space in the lower lot for Transformers The Ride 3D. However, the attraction still operates to this day in Universal Studios Japan. Guests were lined up on an observation platform overlooking a warehouse scene in a soundstage. The narration informed visitors that a fire had broken out in the centre office. But it's burned everything in the room and it's run out of oxygen. Air reaches the room, causing the titular backdraft from the office. A series of explosions creates more fire in the warehouse. Subsequent pyrotechnic effects provided a spectacle for guests. And in typical Universal fashion, the platform guests are standing on drops by a few inches just as the show climaxes. Number 6. Jurassic Park: The Ride. Jurassic Park: The Ride is still technically in operation today, although under a different theme. The original incarnation of Jurassic World: The Ride was significantly different than what we have today. The original version opened in 1996 and closed in 2018, although this version still operates both in Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Japan. Riders boarded boats to take a gentle river tour of Jurassic Park. As they observed some of the park's dinosaurs, they were knocked off course by a Parasaurolophus. Unfortunately, the boat entered a restricted area and some less than friendly dinosaurs are now on the prowl. The ride's iconic scene brings guests face to face with a giant T-Rex. Lucky for them though, they escape by falling down a 26-meter drop into a lagoon below. The revamped version unfortunately follows a growing trend in the theme park industry. Some of the pivotal scenes now include the use of screens, taking away from the original practical effects that were used in the ride. But with the growing franchise, this ride is at least updated now for younger riders to experience. Number 5. Shrek 4D. Acting as a sequel to the original 2001 Shrek film, Shrek 4D was a 4D simulator experience that operated between 2003 and 2017. Guests entered the attraction through the dungeon in Duloc, equipped with Ogre Vision 3D glasses, an audio-animatronic donkey interacted with guests. They then entered an auditorium where the story is told. Following Shrek's marriage to Fiona, Lord Farquaad has now kidnapped Fiona. Shrek and Donkey set out on a voyage to catch Farquaad and save Fiona. The 4D show incorporated moving seats, sprays of water, and dangling spiders from the ceiling. These effects worked in time with the 3D film being shown on the screen. It was a fun and entertaining attraction for the whole family, although it was deemed in need of a bit of rejuvenation, where the building would be later changed to DreamWorks Theatre. Here, the feature presentation was changed to a 4D Kung Fu Panda show. However, the original Shrek 4D still operates in the Florida, Japan, and Singapore Universal resorts. Number 4. Terminator 2 3D. Terminator 2 3D was a live theatre and stunt show that also incorporated a 3D film. This is another attraction that was also featured in our Universal Florida attraction graveyard video. It opened in the Hollywood Park in 1999 before closing in 2012. Following the storyline of the original sequel, guests were provided a tour of Cyberdyne's facility. This was to showcase some of their new technology. However, the presentation is cut short by John and Sarah Connor. They advise the audience on Cyberdyne's real motive and the dangers posed by Skynet. In the main auditorium, our host shows off Cyberdyne's new T-70 Terminators. The original stars of the film are tactically played by stunt doubles on stage, but the story cleverly blends between live action and on-screen 3D film. The attraction was groundbreaking at the time, although did begin to feel a little bit outdated. It was subsequently removed in 2012 to make way for Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. This is a more family-friendly attraction, however it would have been nice to have seen this space used for something more along the lines of the Bourne Stuntacular as seen in the Florida Park. Number 3. The Adventures of Conan, a Sword and Sorcery Spectacular, and Beetlejuice's Rock and Roll Graveyard Revue. Universal Studios attractions come in many varieties. These next two entries are a testament of the variety in the park's history. The Adventures of Conan was a 20-minute live action stunt show. It was loosely based on the Conan the Barbarian film, which came out in 1982, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, in his second mention of this video. The show featured Conan and a wizard fighting an evil wizard that turns himself into a fire-breathing dragon. Following a 10-year run starting in 1983, the show was eventually phased out. The then current Beetlejuice show was moved from an outdoor venue to the indoor stage that housed the Conan show. Beetlejuice's Rock and Roll Graveyard Revue ran from 1992 to 1999. Beetlejuice had become a bit of a poster boy for Universal Parks, and in more recent years, despite not having his own attraction, still surfaces every year around Halloween. The show itself consisted of a variety song and dance show featuring Universal monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman all sang rock songs, some being loosely horror themed. Some of the songs featured included In the Midnight Hour and I Will Survive. The Hollywood show would later be replaced by a short-running Marvel-themed show, Spider-Man Rocks. Number 2. The Mummy Returns Chamber of Doom, Van Helsing Fortress Dracula, and Universal's House of Horrors. Not all Universal Studios Hollywood rides were sit-down experiences. In fact, the park was known for some of its walkthrough exhibits. The best of these attractions though had to be the horror experiences. Universal Hollywood would have its own Halloween Horror Nights, which started in 1997. But these walkthrough attractions gave us a taste of Halloween year-round when they were featured. The Mummy Returns brought guests deep into a tomb where scare actors would frighten you on your voyage. Van Helsing Fortress Dracula was a similar experience but replaced the mummies with vampires and monsters and placed you in a castle. This park feature would later go on to become Universal's House of Horrors in 2007. The walkthrough took guests through various film sets featuring some of Universal's horror icons. The 8-minute long experience incorporated films such as The Mummy, The Wolfman, Psycho, and even Child's Play. The attraction would later close in 2014, making way for a Walking Dead horror experience which ran until 2020. Hopefully Universal keeps these horror elements within the park because they really make for fun and unique additions. Number 1. King Kong Encounter, Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, and the Fast and Furious Extreme Close-Up. It wouldn't be a Universal Studios Hollywood video without a mention of the world-famous studio tour. Dating all the way back to 1964, it's no surprise that this tour has seen some changes over the years. Some standout and memorable features include the original King Kong Encounters that ran from 1986 to 2008. This brought guests through a soundstage recreating New York City, where they came face to face with King Kong. The animatronic used cost a huge $7 million at the time and was created by legendary Disney Imagineer Bob Gurr. Unfortunately, a fire broke out in 2008 on the soundstage, and the experience was subsequently destroyed. A modern screen-based version later opened in its place in 2010 that runs to this day. This is very similar to that of Skull Island Reign of Kong, found in Islands of Adventure. Curse of the Mummy's Tomb was also a staple feature of the tour between 2001 and 2013. The tram would bring guests into a cursed tomb and a spinning tunnel. The walls around you would rotate around the tram, giving a disorienting effect. The Fast and the Furious Extreme Close-Up would also close in 2013, having originally opened in 2006. This would show some of the special effects used in the franchise, such as an explosion that simulated two cars near missing with the tram. Both the Mummy and Fast and the Furious experience closed in order to make way for a more substantial feature. The contentious Fast and Furious Supercharged would open in its place in 2015, with a full Florida version opening in 2018 to mixed reception. If you enjoyed this video, how about you check out our Unbuilt episode on Disneyland California, where we document some of the attractions that were planned but never built in the park. Hopefully this video pays tribute to some of the lost rides and attractions at the park. Now you're ready. Which of these do you miss the most? Leave a comment down below and let us know.